Hi, my name's Bill, and I'd like to encourage you in collecting minerals. No doubt you have some interest, that's why you're looking at this video. Maybe you have a small collection or large collection or are thinking about a collection, and I would like to point out the importance in this video of having your collection properly recorded so that you know in the future all the details about it. It makes it more valuable for sale or for donation later on, or whatever you may do. You may sell the pieces off individually, however that is. I tended to collect smaller specimens. I have some large ones, but I tended to collect smaller ones just to fit in the case. And I would encourage you to have a proper case like this that you see behind me here, where you can have, this normally has plexiglass on the front to keep fingers out, visitors' fingers, as well as dust. And dust is very, very bad for a collection because it's hard. There are some pieces that you can almost hardly remove the dust at all. So I would just encourage that, and that's what I am here for, is to, I've developed a fairly simple database and numbering system that will, and is very straightforward, and it will help you to have your collection keyed to your database, and that's an important thing as well. So I'd like to get started, but first I'll show you a couple of things from my collection that might be of interest to you. And there are, I collected minerals based on chemical content, such as sulfates and phosphates, but then such things as the metals like silver and lead and mercury and gold and a few other things like that. Then you can have, you can collect for interest's sake, and I always like to have a few interesting things in my collection for young people to get them involved and get them interested in starting a collection of their own, getting interested in the details of it. There's a lot you can get involved with, like the crystalline formations and all of that, which is very interesting. But let me first show you a couple of pieces here anyway that are of interest. First of all is this is a geode from Midwestern Illinois along the Mississippi River. The black in there, I cut this. It originally looked like so, and I cut it to reveal the natural petroleum. That's natural petroleum like you would get in Saudi Arabia or somewhere. Very sticky, gooey material. I dissolved it out and put it in a bottle, but that's one interesting piece you can have. Another interesting piece is this, which isn't exactly a mineral. It's probably basically glass, and you can see it's sort of hollow like a tube, and it's called a fulgurite. It's number 543 in my collection, and it is where lightning strikes the sand, like on a beach. You'll find these on beaches where lightning strikes the sand and it forms fulgurites. Here's another piece of mercury mineral called cinnabar, and it comes from Marin County, California. It's actually called a slick inside. You can see that shiny on there. Um, it it was in the place where the rock shifted during an earthquake or earthquakes and polished that side of it. That wasn't done by me or anyone else. That was done by the rocks in an earthquake. And this is piece number 137 in my collection. So I think we need to get on with our labeling and databasing. So I would thank you for watching this video, and I hope it's helpful to you. Now, when you are going to make a record of your collection, you're going to want a connection between your database and your specimen, or each piece in your collection. And this is a piece of tugtabite from the island of Greenland, which I bought in 1973 for $12.50. It's a rather unique piece. And there is the number linking it to my database, which you'll see later. But so right now we're going to focus on generating a number like this on a specimen so that you can see how it's done. First of all, we have to make a sheet with numbers on it. Let's see if you can see that. You see those numbers down there. I used the circle with the little number in it just to give you an idea of what we're going to do. I'm going to punch out this number 710 in the lower center here, and that's the number we're going to use on the specimen. And I just use a regular hand punch like you can get at Walmart or any Office Depot, Office Max, wherever it is. And what you do is you center the number in that little opening and click, and there is the number. Now we're going to number it onto this plate of quartz crystals, which was self-collected in Arkansas. And it will be, in my collection, it will be number 710. And what we do is we will number it right on this spot here, so that it won't, when it sets on the shelf, it won't adhere itself to the shelf material, felt or whatever you have there. So that's what we're going to do. And the first thing will be we use Elmer's glue, which I'll show you here. This is the Elmer's glue that we're using. The feature about this glue, and it could be any glue, but it needs to be a glue that will dry clear. And this one, while it goes on white, it dries clear. And so we're going to put just a little dot on the back of that specimen where I pointed for you. And here is the glue. Now, well, it's a little stringy there, but it's not very not bad, so we'll just use that. And what we do is we take a tweezers, pick it up with the tweezer and put it on there so you can lay it right where you want it on the glue, and tap it down a little to make sure that it's all, the back of it's all covered with glue. And then I'll just take my finger and smear the glue over the face of it. You have to be careful you don't pick it up on your finger. I've done that before. And there. And then we'll leave that for several hours, and we'll see that that number is clear and readable and ready for the collection. So that is the way that you number the piece. And then you will have another connection as well in your case by your specimen. And this is the tugtupite that I showed you before from Greenland. It's number 121, and it's got the name of the collection, the location, and the name of the collection. So that's how it's going to be tied together. I'll show you how to make this label later as well. But first we're going to go to the database, and we'll show you that in just a few minutes. Well, after a few hours, here is what the label looks like if our camera will focus on it. That's what it looks like. It's perfectly clear, 710. So that's the finish of the recording and details of this beautiful quartz specimen. Here is a list of items that you will want in your database. The first of all being the name of the mineral or minerals, and if there are more than one on a piece, list the predominant mineral first. Then the consecutive number in your collection. You can start that numbering sequence at any point you like, but make sure that it's consecutive. The location that the piece, where the piece came from originally, that is out of the ground, not where you bought it. That's a very important point. This next one, number 4, is a chemical formula. You may not be interested in that. I was. That doesn't need to be in there if you don't want it. 5 is important, where you acquired the specimen. If you purchased it, who you purchased it from, and the date we'll get to later. But if it was a gift, you might want to put down the giver's name, and if it was self-collected, very important to have details about where it was collected. Then number 6 is the price you paid for it, and number 7, where you bought it, or if it was given to you. We had that above. These two, the hardness and specific gravity, are not totally important, especially if you're not into the scientific value of it. Number 10 is the size, and this is something that I left out of my collection until just recently, and I found that it would have been a big help if I would have had it in there all along. So now I have to go back and enter it, and it can be in inches or in metric, whichever. And one other thing that you might want to put in there is a section for comments. You might explain about the slick inside piece of cinnabar I showed you, or the fulgurite, and so on. Those items could be entered into the comments section. So that is, these are the list of items that you should have in your database, and I'll show you my database, a sample of my database next. For many of you, you will be familiar with the Microsoft Excel program, which is a spreadsheet, and that's what I use for my database. The spreadsheet lends itself very well to a database, and so this is a screenshot of part of my database. I can't get it all on one frame in the video, but the The important things are this row is the consecutive number in the collection of that piece and the name of the piece, the location that the piece comes from, that is where it was taken out of the ground or wherever it came from. This is the Dana number, which you probably will not necessarily want, and the chemical formula is also optional. But this is fairly important, and that's what you paid for it if you bought it. Otherwise, at zero would be a gift, or you would have found it. And so this gives you some idea of what the database looks like, and it's very, very handy, very easy, straightforward to use. You can set the type size at whatever you prefer, and you can also make it bold, as I have done the names, so it's easy to see. Then you can sort it. You can sort it by column B, or sort it by column A, which this one is sorted by column A, which is the consecutive numbers. And that is helpful too if you want to find all the copper that you have, or all the quartz, or whatever it may be. Then you can easily get that report made. So that's a sample of it there. This is a short clip showing a printout, a possible printout. You could arrange it however you would like, but this is the way I made my printout. I have a 3-ring binder which I keep these in, and it shows the various items from the database, the collection number, the name, the locality or the location it came from, Dana number, which I don't have here, chemical formula, hardness and specific gravity. I purchased it from David Garski when he had his showroom in Elmhurst, Illinois. Paid $450, and I bought it in July of 1981. And that's kind of handy to have, or to be able to print out various uses, but it's not totally necessary that you do that. So, but I thought I would show you how I've done it. I would like now to show you how to make labels for your collection to demonstrate or to show in your case the various minerals, and this you can put alongside your mineral in the case. And so I would suggest this. If you do it on your computer, I have done a large one here so you can see the wording and placing. This is a double size. This one is here. It has the item number, the name, the place it's from, and then the name of my collection here. And when it's down to proper size, which you don't need to make it double size, I just did that for demonstration, but this would probably be a good size for you to use. It's the size I use, 1/2 inch by 2.5 inches. That will include some of the longer names and so on. And what you do is you print this out on a good grade of a cardstock in your printer. If your printer will print on photo material, that would be ideal, like a photo. The smoothness of it would be ideal. Then you cut that out, as you see here, and you have to be careful in your cutting. And then what I did was I bought 1/4 inch quarter round, very small quarter round at Home Depot, and cut it into lengths a little less than the length of my label, and just glue it on. And if it's glued on that way, it just sits naturally in your collection case so that it can be read. You set it in front of the piece. So I think that's a very easy method to use, and I suggest you look into it.
Well, now I would like to show you some pieces that are in my collection, not bragging rights, but just to show you how the labels identify various pieces. And very important feature, this Millerite coming up is labeled, as you can see, and the next piece is also Millerite, but it is not labeled, and difficult for a visitor to know what it is, and sometimes yourself, without going to the database and looking up the number that's on the bottom of the piece. So these are various shots of items that are in the collection. I won't go over the details, except to say that this coming up is my mercury collection, and it's mostly cinnabar. There's native mercury in the bottle, and the piece next to it has drops of native mercury from when it was in the ground. So that is the way a shelf should look, I think, and I would encourage you to do it. So now, go and make your collection beautiful. Thank you.